And welcome to our quarterfinal edition of the East County Sports Report with Dave Dickens. I'm Ramon Scott of EastCountySports.com. Dave, we've got 10 teams this Friday night, so it's right back to work for us. Here we got some favorites that are expected to win. We have some underdogs that we'd like to win this week, and we have some potential matchups of our teams in the next round. If so things work out. But first things first, we've got all these games here tonight, and it's going to be an awesome Friday night of action, including several of the games here in the East County. We did have some teams with buys that will host games here this week. If anyone's going to go out to the games, I know the families and students will be out there, but everyone can check out the action here this week, Dave. It's going to be pretty good. I don't know how many of our 10 teams I'm sure you have us going 10-0.
I'd like to go 10-0, but in reality, I think that's a tall order for all East County teams out there to get her done. Um, you know, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm a little concerned with Granite Hills, and I still don't understand the algorithm on how beating Mission Hills the way they did on their home field that they got dropped. So those computers, I really didn't sleep well after. I mean, really sleeping or thinking on that of how they got knocked down like that. I mean, they did have some rough play against the Hillers in the first half and their last game that they played, but does that deserve a demotion when you come back and you score that many points in the second half?
Well, like I said, David, look, if they did make it to the open division, they'd be facing Lincoln, and I'm sure they would love a chance to play the Lincoln Hornets. But you know what? Right now, Lincoln, Cathedral Catholic, La Costa Canyon, they look pretty good, especially those top two teams. And Mission Hills finished fourth. So we have this Friday night, Dave, your Granite Hills Eagles expected to win here at home against the Torrey Pines Falcons. And why not, Dave? Those computers, yeah. I've been taking the heat a little bit here in the playoffs with my criticism of the folks at Cal Preps, and some of the local media has taken exception to some of my comments. Some of the, uh, you know, folks out on social media saying that basically I'm wrong in my criticism of Cal Preps. Dave, I've been the one championing the computers here for years, right? While you've been critical. And as soon as I turned critical, those folks were right on to me there saying, how I was wrong to criticize these computers. So they obviously aren't paying attention or don't watch the show. They just want to gaslight everything that people say here. But I've said the computer system works, and I believe that. Now, here's the thing, Dave. We did see, for example, St. Augustine last week that had no wins. Well, they now have a win, right? We saw Monte Vista beat a team that had no wins. Probably don't deserve to make it to the postseason. Just kind of eliminate the teams that finished maybe last in their leagues, right? And didn't beat their like teams, maybe, because they do try to balance their leagues. Yeah, there are going to be some years maybe where teams don't make it after all. I mean, look, we were without the Braves. I don't know, Valhalla, they might have been able to give one of these teams a run, because look at what Monte Vista's doing. And we'll talk about them, Dave, this week. They were the last one in, and they've already have a win, and they might get one again this week. So maybe it's not perfect, but let's talk about it here, Dave, with the number 3 seeded Eagles. Number 3 seed, maybe you also makes you raise an eyebrow a little bit, because they certainly feel like they could be the number 1 team here in Division One as they take on the Torrey Pines Falcons. Of course, Dave, San Marcos is number 1. They're pretty good. I've been saying how good they are with a top quarterback, and Carlsbad is number 2. But Granite Hills gets to host this game in a Battle of the Birds this Friday night, and they are, Dave, at least 20-point favorites here, if not more. Here, the winner of this one will take on the winner between seventh seeded Rancho Bernardo and second seeded Carlsbad. But the Eagles are expected not to have too much of a challenge. I don't know. The computers say 20 to 24 points, Dave, for Granite Hills. I think it's probably going to be closer than that.
I would think that it would be because you look at what Grossmont did, and come on, Torrey Pines. No offense to our foothillers, but Torrey Pines is at a much higher level than the foothillers. And then look what they did. I think if Granite Hills plays the football they should be playing, I mean, let's look at who they lost to. I mean, they lost to Cathedral Catholic, which is one of the best teams in the county at the moment.
Yeah.
And then the team that traveled from Arizona, Perry, another fantastic team. And I think they did better in the game against Perry, in considering how high ranked they were coming in from the desert. So what that tells me is I tend to disagree. I think that Granite Hills is going to be at least a 2, maybe even a 3 touchdown win over Torrey Pines. But I really think they got to go with their strength. They got to run the ball. They have, if they got to switch it up. I mean, let's face it. I mean, they have one of the best running backs in the county, if not the best running back in the county. And he's very tough to stop. And they have the offensive line to create the holes for him. Okay. I just think that they have 2 very capable backs that can get it done. And yeah, we have Lewis and to throw to. We have Benitez back there. He can run a little bit. He can also toss the rock, and he's very accurate. But I think that we need to establish the run, and we need to do it many times, as often as possible. Wear down the defense, and then let's give our defense a chance on the field too, because let's face it, the secondary for the Eagles is top notch, and they have quite a few turnovers this season.
And you will see balance from the Falcons here this week. Last week in their 26-15 win over Scripps Ranch, who lost 2 straight to end the season. Ryder Young ran for 115 yards and 2 touchdowns. Quarterback Blake Miller threw for 2 touchdowns to Zach Barger. They're led defensively by Joey Levenberg and Richard Phillips as well. And Cole Loizo leads the secondary. But we know what Granite Hills has to offer, Dave, with the balance, and they should be the better team here, it feels like to me coming in this one. I will say this about Perry. They ended up going just 5-5 in their league. They did lose, ironically, Dave, to some teams that we're familiar with here in the East County, actually. 2 teams that I believe we've seen our teams face in years past, including Castile. They played Monta Vista several years ago. They beat Perry, and also Hamilton also beat Perry this year. Perry will play Chandler in the playoffs over there, but not to downgrade that defeat. I know that's one they would like to have back, and probably is the game that may have probably cost them their spot. They say in the computers that they kind of have to manually put that information in when we play out of state teams. I don't know if that's the case anymore, but nonetheless, Dave, the way Granite Hills is going right now, I would think they're going to be fine here in this one. Yeah, Torrey Pines is still kind of Torrey Pines. It feels like to me they played obviously a very tough schedule coming into during the season, right? Their losses here, Dave, are to open division contender LCC. They lost to Carlsbad. They lost to Mission Hills 31-14. They lost to San Marcos. They lost to La Jolla. That was a blemish, certainly there, even though La Jolla's got a nice team. That probably is a slip up there on the schedule for Torrey Pines. And they also lost their season opener to an out of section team to finish an Torrey Pines like 5-6. Just a tough schedule, and that's what happened here this season right now. But the Eagles, if they started the season young and maybe we had them a tad bit overrated, they should be settled in here. It feels like right now, Dave, with this team and ready to go. Yeah, there's definitely concerns. I could read it, hear it in your voice in that Grossmont game, because there really is. I would expect the philosophy of the coaches at Granite Hills. I would think there's probably no excuse for what happened on that night, despite it was the fact that it was a victory, Dave. Because you know, uh, look, Grossmont's offense is pretty prolific, right? But to be an open division contender, you can't have games like that. So maybe live and learn a little bit. They did put up 90 points, Dave. Let's just be.
Look, well, that's the whole thing. I think what happened, and I don't want to question Kellen Cobbs because he's done a phenomenal job. I mean, he had a state championship 2 years ago, for crying out loud, and a CIF championship last year. Um, I just wish we would have just continued pushing, running the ball. I don't know if maybe Turner was a little worn. They knew the playoffs were coming up, but I mean, we had the bye. I think we should have just gone out there and, as far as Granite Hills is concerned, and just blown out Grossmont. I mean, just taking it to them. They weren't stopping the run as well as they were in the secondary. So I would say take the same approach and just continue to pound the rock. Let your defense go out there and win the turnover battle. And I think that's what's going to actually win the game, is whoever wins the turnover battle. And I'm hoping, I'm real sketchy on these buys. If you're on a roll, I don't think you should take a buy, but I definitely think this definitely was a good thing for the Granite Hills Eagles, as that game was a long, grueling game, even though they put up so many points and broke many records.
They still won by 54 points, but we know that it was close for a while. As I don't know, maybe they were toying with them. Maybe the Eagles played some other, you watched more of the game. Well, I watched the whole game too, but it was such a track meet, obviously, with that 90 points. A lot of, we saw in the Union, it did tie the record, I'm pretty sure, at 90 points. Look, it was an 11-man football game in the other game that had 90 points for a winner. We can't discredit that. I guess for a that was a smaller school, I'll say that, but that's not what we're all about here. Zach Benitez had 8 touchdowns in that game against Grossmont, Dave, including 3 to Trenton Ingram, who's really been stepping up. He's been kind of the guy for Granite Hills. If you talk about some of the names and the established players that they've had, it's been the emergence of Ingram, really, that's been super spectacular. 107 yards in that game and 3 touchdowns. Lathan Fry had 2 touchdown receptions. Max Turner, he just ran for 164 yards in the game, Dave, on 13 carries, and he had 3 touchdowns. Gabe Spalding, Anthony Matar, who looks a lot promising backfield there in the future for these guys. Pretty good for Turner, Dave, this season. 1,550 yards and 23 touchdowns. He has 40 touchdowns in his Granite Hills career.
I don't know if he and Pablo were
46 total.
I don't know if he and Pablo were competing, but if I called them both up, I guarantee they've been pleasantly, as they are good friends from what I understand, trying to compete. And as much as I loved when Pablo was at Granite Hills and at Helix, I just think that Max Turner's he's just too much. I mean, he can carry linemen with him if he'd like. But let's not forget about Spalding. I mean, I think he's a perfect back to put in, to give him a rest and to pick. There was a game there he picked up 5, 6, 8, 10, 12 yards. Nice little chunks, gave him a little rest. But I just think we need to throw a little less and limit the amount of turnovers that Torrey Pines can possibly come up with, because that is what it's going to come down to. Who plays the cleanest football and with the least amount of mistakes? I'm not even calling for a high scoring game. As a matter of fact, I think I'm going to call it out right now. Granite Hills by a pair of touchdowns,
Okay.
and I'm going to say 35-21.
Yeah, I mean, right on, Dave. I'm with you. 35-21 sounds perfect. Maybe they can get a field goal, maybe 38-21. The computers have Torrey Pines for 14 points, but again, there was some defensive lapses there. They're playing a very good team here in this one. They are expected to win, and Dave and I both think that they will get this victory. All right. Let's move on, Dave, here in Division One here. Our teams cannot meet in the next round here, Dave, as the winner of this one would face the number one San Marcos Knights or Del Norte, who did pull off a minor upset in week one, a 9 versus 8 matchup. Del Norte advanced, but here you'll have Mount Miguel on the road, 9-2, taking on El Camino, a team that we are familiar with. That's played Grossmont Hills League team Helix here quite frequently of late with good success. So, can the Mount Miguel Matadors, Dave, keep that high flying offense going here in this one? Because that's what it feels like they're all about. They do have some, defensive concerns for me when you get to this level, is what it feels like, Dave. And when you're going up against a team like El Camino here, who has a bye in this one, Dave, but Mount Miguel had a blast off performance against Santa Fe Christian. AJ Stowers passed for 4 touchdowns and had over 300 yards in the win. Mount Miguel scored on every single possession in their game against Santa Fe Christian, even though they had to shake them off a little bit in the second half. AJ Logan had 2 receptions. He threw a 70-yard touchdown to Izell Buchanan. Brandon Arrington, KJ Shields scored touchdowns, and so did Callie Young and Jeremiah Holiday. So we're seeing more names from the Matadors that I imagine we'll see in the future as well. Dave, the computers here in this one both have El Camino winning this one. The Cal Preps computer, the controversial one, has the Wildcats here by a touchdown, but another computer, which I don't know, maybe that computer will get some work from the San Diego section if they can have a dispute with Cal Preps, but they have El Camino by more than 3 touchdowns.
Wow, well, it's not a really good measuring stick with Helix because I believe that was the first game of the season for Helix, and they really didn't know who they were really going to have it behind. I mean, they knew who they were going to have behind center, but he got hurt early on in the season. They didn't fare too well against El Camino. El Camino definitely had the upper hand. Um, I, I think that in this one in particular, I mean, first of all, you got the fastest man in the county, you, and he had what, the one or two touchdowns
Yeah, he
last
did.
week.
He did reach the end zone last week in the game. Again, the Matadors spread it out last week, but Arrington, he will be one of the top recruits. He already is a top recruit in the nation. He's only a junior, but the sky's the limit for him because of his near Olympic quality speed. I guess if he could work on his track running, I imagine he will continue to improve. He's not quite at that level, but for football talent, he has elite speed that will be among the top speedsters in the nation this year and next year.
Well, I think what it's going to come down to is I think Mount McGill is going to actually just have to outscore El Camino. They are going to have to score every time they have the ball, and punt. They can't punt the ball, and they really shouldn't settle for field goals. And they're not a team that I've seen so far that settles for field goals anyhow. But I'd be leery of these Wildcats because I think they have from what I've looked at, a pretty stout defense, and you know uh, maybe if they get to the quarterback quick enough, putting all that pressure. I don't think Mount McGill's so used to having all that pressure up front, and they're so quick to get rid of the ball. But be leery of the secondary as well. And look at who El Camino's played. I mean, they've had to play the San Marcos teams, and
Mhm.
so yeah, you look. Oh, 5-5. We're 9-2. Oh, we should go out there or go to El Camino and just take those Tigers down. I don't think it's going to happen that way. I'm hoping our Mount McGill Matadors pull it off. I'm hoping we win all of our games this week as well. But I think in this one, I think that the Tigers might have the edge and the home field advantage, and I'm going to have to unfortunately take the Tigers by 10.
Wildcats, I know what you mean. Dave, it was 49-20 in that game that El Camino beat Helix at Helix in the first week of the season. El Camino also lost this season to a Mountain View team out of section that we're kind of familiar with again. We've had teams play Mountain View before. They lost to Torrey Pines 7-6. They lost to La Costa Canyon 28-11. They lost to Mission Hills 21-11, and they lost to Carlsbad 28-7. All the teams that we see in the Open Division and Division One playoffs here right now, that El Camino, that's pretty much who they lost to. So for Mount McGill, I'll take him, Dave. I've been overrating them all season. I'll do it again one more time. I'll take him to find a way to outshoot El Camino here in this one with that great offense that can score probably against anyone in the county. It's just a matter of having enough defense against these type of these North County teams, the teams that maybe they're a little better than our teams here right now with the way things are going. So you mentioned El Camino. They do have some pretty good talent. As you said, they've actually used three separate quarterbacks this year, two of them in extensive action this season, but they also have rushed here for 1,224 yards and 15 touchdowns, but they are pretty well balanced. They probably run at about maybe a 3-2 ratio or so. So no doubt the Matadors have the great weapons here. We mentioned everybody was an impact player in last week's game, but they got other players too that we didn't mention, like Vernon and the like. So I'm going to take them. I'm going to take them one more time. I'm going to grab them to get this one on the road and get a chance to take on probably San Marcos. They should beat Del Norte, but Del Norte's had a nice season as well. So it'll be the winner of this one against Del Norte or San Marcos.
Well, let's take just a real quick step ahead, and then move on.
Yeah.
So are you telling me they might have a possibility to, if they win this game, beat Del Norte or San Marcos?
Oh, great. No, I don't think they can beat. I'm pretty confident that San Marcos will win, so I'll only speculate against San Marcos. And if Mount Miguel does win this game, I'm not sure they're going to be able to beat I'll be picking San Marcos if that's your question. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's the answer. All right. Hey, Dave, let's move to the exciting world of Division Two with a team. Well, we've been loving these guys all season, but this is going to be tough. They're taking on the Christian Patriots here, 9-2, coming into this one, Dave, and they're going to be taking on the UC Centurions here, having a great. We thought UC had a breakout season a few seasons ago, but man, they are really looking good here right now at 9-1 coming into this one, Dave. And Christian, look, it was a great game last week. We had the guys on there after their win over Imperial. Caleb Runkle, 290 yards and 3 touchdowns for Christian. Kai Rozier had 12 receptions in the game, Dave, for 214 yards, and superstar Brady Eads had 6 receptions, including 2 touchdowns, and to top it off, the game-clinching interception, Dave. They'll be taking on, however, UC, who comes in with a bye here following their 9-1 season. The winner will take on a closely rated matchup with Point Loma at Poway.
Well, I'm looking here at our what should we call him? Our correspondent and uh, assistant ECS official uh, Christian coverage with Mr. Davila. Uh, I asked him and he agreed. He said I think we really can win that game. And Coach Kelly and his defense have done great all year. And you know what? That's a good point. I think the key to Christian winning this game is not going to be their offense.
No,
It is going
no.
to be the key to that defense. And again, it is going to be you need to make those turnovers. You need to hit hard. You need to hit, and you need to be punching that ball out of the receiver's hands. Uh, I think that is going to be a huge key. I don't think it's going to be on Runkle's shoulders of throwing, 7, 8 touchdown passes. And that's nothing to take it away from him because he's been absolutely fantastic since he got off the bench after the time that he had to do from transferring from Granite Hills. And uh, and again, I always want to mention Wilkins and I always want to mention Spencer because they were a part of this and a part of the wins also, and keeping these Patriots up top, and then our good buddy Turby he's always in there, and I think, and I'm gonna put that out there on top of who I'm gonna pick. I think Turby's gonna have a couple of balls in his hands, and it's gonna be when he takes it from the other team.
Dave, I remember back in uh, 2019, Christian met University City in the postseason. Ironically, they played them in the last game of the season and won to win the Eastern League Championship. This was in 2018 under at the time Coach Oliver and Coach Beezer, remember, and they won the regular season game at University City 49-28. They had to come back the next week and take University City on in the playoffs, and they won that game 42-41 at Granite Hills High in a thriller. They also came back the next season and played University City in 2019 and beat them at home 42-34. So these programs have met before, but I don't know. Right now, for me, Dave, the computers have Dave. The official computer has UC by a touchdown. The other one has them by 2 touchdowns. And this is going to be tough. I just think University City has a very, very talented team here. I'm going to take them to win this one, but I'll keep it closer, Dave. I'll throw at least a little hometown East County bias in there, and I'll say it's going to be by a touchdown, maybe 3 or 4 points here. Maybe it could be 28-24 or something like that. Give Christian a chance to win it. We know they have the clutch players offensively to do it, but you're right. If they can hold them to 4 touchdowns, I'd say they're going to have a chance. If the Centurions maybe get 5 touchdowns or more, I think that is going to be the problem, like you were saying about the defense, huh?
And that's why I'm going to call it very close. They're going to play a tough game defensively, and I'm going to pick Christian Patriots to beat University City by 2.
UC's quarterback Quentin Demera has 28 touchdowns and 7 interceptions so far this season. He's thrown for 2,278 yards. He's got one receiver, Garner, a senior, with 11 of those touchdown receptions here this season. They are pretty much a 1-to-1 ratio run and pass. So I'll take the Centurions here at home. Look, it's 8 versus 1. I'm calling it closer than these computers would have it. So, okay, let's go Patriots. Let's get it done here. Let's have another big week like last week. All right, Dave. Our teams, if they were to win in Division Two, our 2 entries in the quarterfinals here would not be facing each other next week. They could only meet in the finals. That is, if Helix can uphold their end of the bargain as well as they take on La Jolla here in this one, Dave. Helix is going to be 2 touchdown favorite or more here in this one, despite that 4-6 record. And they have played better here down the stretch, even against the tough teams of the Grossmont Hills League. Maybe they weren't expected to win those games after all, as we did go against them certainly. But taking on La Jolla here, they are the higher seeded team here. Helix had the bye coming into this one, Dave. We said they would. Remember, we were right in all the seedings and all that. We got that one right on. But for La Jolla coming in here, they do have a veteran quarterback in Hudson Smith. He passed for 262 yards and 4 TDs last week against Madison in a 27-15 win. Aiden McGill had over 100 yards rushing. Carson Deal and Hank Hansen had touchdowns in that one. So, Matt, for La Jolla here, Dave, you got to give him a chance here, Dave. I'm going to think that Helix will find a way here, but I don't think I can call it by 2 touchdowns. I think I'm going to have to say maybe by just 1 touchdown, maybe 10 points, but I'll take Helix here. I'll let you cover it too, but the other computer has Helix by 3 touchdowns. 2
Yeah,
and 3 touchdowns.
I'm definitely gonna also take Helix by a touchdown. I don't think it's gonna be by any more. But they really come around. I mean, they're on their 3rd quarterback, I want to say, and I think they may have a fit now. I think it's going to be really key too. Same thing. The defense is going to have to play well. Maybe even a couple of picks in the secondary from this La Jolla team. We talked about it the week before for the first round of playoffs. A lot of turnovers, and some of these quarterbacks, like the Kearney Comets, let's just say he is a fantastic quarterback. But when you're on the run all the time and you're under duress and you have purple jerseys everywhere, you're not going to be throwing very much. And if you do, it's going to go to the other team. That's where I think that Helix needs to be careful on the other end of it too, to not play safe, but let's mix it up a little bit. Let's run the ball, pound the ball for a little bit, try to win it in the trenches. Maybe some play action, maybe some specialty plays. And I got Helix by 7 and that's probably at the most. But I'll give Helix a nod.
Dave, 5 quarterbacks have actually taken snaps from center this season for Helix. Yeah, if you count, they all have some statistics. If you throw in Pablo Jackson, who's a perfect 2 for 2 with a touchdown, 6 Helix players have thrown passes this season. So look, they have their quarterback last year ended up at Michigan State. So there's been tough kind of replacing him here, but so far right now getting great contribution here from Jet Gottlieb, who came back, kind of was a touted player early on in his career, I believe, but didn't play football and now has come back to kind of save the day here a little bit. He's thrown for 381 yards so far in 3 games with 4 touchdowns, but Helix has thrown for 11 interceptions so far this season. You know how they do it. Pablo Jackson has 1,222 yards and 11 touchdowns this season, really handled most of the duties in the backfield this season, along with another player, Jordan Lindley, a junior, who's done a nice job. He might be the heir apparent there in this one. I'm going to have to take Helix here. I think what they're going to need, Dave, to make sure is defensively, for me, is what it feels like from the Highlanders. We know they're always going to have a good defense here, and if anything, maybe the offense has been what's sputtered because of the passing game. But with the great story this season, Jeremy Davis, we talked about him overcoming his health battles to lead the team in tackles this season. Just incredible considering he had to ring the bell just to take the field here this season. So incredible performance. Overlooked really. He's been featured a lot, but we forget. He's still playing and making a big impact out there right now. So I expect the Helix defense maybe to carry the day here against La Jolla, but I think it's going to be closer than the computers might indicate here in this one. All right. Dave, we didn't talk about Division 4 last week because we didn't have any teams playing in Division 4. We do now. Our two teams had a bye, and Dave mentioned, in those other divisions where we have two teams available, if our two teams win this week, it's going to be, and they're home and they're favored, so I will say it like that, right? Still got to beat these teams where they had tough times winning or competing, trying to win in their regular season. These are both going to be rematches. Grossmont will take on Mira Mesa with a chance to play the winner between Chula Vista and El Capitan in the semifinals next week. El Capitan will be the number 3 seed. I've gone with this matchup here because Grossmont did win, and it was a thriller of a game. Look at Mira Mesa's record there, though, Dave. We talked about what it took for Grossmont just to win that game that night on the road against Mira Mesa. It took everything they had, and Mira Mesa still only went 1-10 this season. But Grossmont, well, they have the most prolific offense in the county. I think that's a fact. But it's stopping teams that have been a big problem this season. And what happened in that Mira Mesa game was no exception, as Grossmont won 32-28. That sounds like a low score.
Well, and I think that's, again, I'm going to refer to the Granite Hills game, and they were down by a touchdown. And I believe, if I don't recall the exact score, but it was like 41-28 or something like that. But they were within sniffing distance of they were making a comeback.
Yeah, they were closer than that too. But you're talking about at the interval, yeah.
Yeah, so I look at this Mira Mesa team. El Capitan started off the beginning of the season. They played him, and they didn't just play him; they beat him pretty well. And I look at Grossmont and what they were able to do. Maybe Granite was taking the Grossmont a little. I don't know. Maybe they weren't too worried about it. We were going to blow them out, and I think that is the mistake, because they are a powerhouse offense, and I think that's what's going to happen in this game. Is it's going to be a battle of offenses, and one of those defenses is going to have to make more stops than the other. But since Grossmont went to Mira Mesa, got the win, I'm going to take Grossmont at home with you're probably looking at Donovan throwing I'm going to say at least 7 touchdowns against that defense. I sincerely, at least 6 or 7 that he's going to throw to. I think Walker will probably catch 3 of them. And then, I don't know. He'll spread it around. Hey, how about this? Maybe Donovan will just run it in himself.
Mira Mesa beat Sweetwater last week, 41-21. Amari Sanders had an interception return for a touchdown, so watch out. He's also a factor on offense. He scored a touchdown on offense, too, last week. So Max San Agustin, he rushed for 100 yards in the game and also had a receiving touchdown in the game. And Jovan Gorham had 2 receiving touchdowns. So they can pass too a little bit. Can Mira Mesa? That final score again, like I said, 32-28. The computers, Dave, have Grossmont. One computer has Grossmont winning by a point. The other computer has Mira Mesa winning by a touchdown. You look at the games that Grossmont lost this season, Dave. They gave up 77 to Patrick Henry. They gave up 56 to Otay Ranch. They gave up 63 to Mount Miguel. They gave up 56 to Helix. They gave up also Mater Dei. They gave up 54. And, of course, the game against the Eagles that they allowed a section record 90 points in that one. Now, Mira Mesa is not going to bring that same type of threat here, but I'm gonna hope that this home field advantage is gonna be enough, Dave, for Grossmont to get it done. But what they are gonna need to do is make a few stops here, is what it feels like a little bit. Tommy Donovan was a first team all Grossmont league quarterback. I don't have the league all league teams. Every team is just kind of sending those things out. Um, Again, we really would like to feature the all league teams on eastcountysports.com in every sport, but the league just isn't providing us with that. We'll try to track it down and put it on the website and everything. We'd like to put every all league team from every sport on eastcountysports.com for the sake of having it up there forever. But we really have every year trouble getting that information from the Grossmont Conference for whatever reason. So we'll try to clean that up a little bit and make sure we get the all league. They were announced last week before the games, but I have not seen an official list. I've only seen the individual teams kind of saying who their top players are. Grossmont has several. Granite, of course, has several. Mount Miguel and Helix as well. So we'll try to get all the all league teams, and hopefully we can get them for the other sports as well, including flag football, where we're having great success with our 4 teams this season. I think we've done a great job on our website. I think our flag football coverage is better than anybody's in the county. So, all right, Dave, I'm going to take the Foothillers. Go ahead. I'm going to take the Foothillers, Dave, though. You know I am. We're at home. We beat them on the road. We can beat them here, but they're going to need a few stops along the way.
Yeah, I think the Foothillers for sure. We should take them in, and not to mention, I forgot to mention not just Noah Walker, but I think also Amari is going to probably catch a few. Parker will probably catch a few. Um, it. Let's just face it. When you have an offense like that, as prolific as it is, I just think you can't stop it. But somebody's got to stop somebody, and I think it's going to be Grossmont, and they are at home. I'm going to take Grossmont by 14.
If anybody has those all league lists, please try to send them to us. We want to promote these players. Nobody out there is reporting who the all league players are except the individual teams. I guess people just aren't interested. I don't know. But all right, let's continue on. So the winner of this game will take on the winner of this one. Another rematch day between Chula Vista here and El Capitan. El Capitan was stunned earlier this season at home, right on this field, by the Chula Vista Spartans, Dave. So, will there be enough here this time? Will there be more of a playoff focus? Maybe they didn't know what they were getting into with the Spartans at that time. It was early in the season when that went down, Dave. So, there's all a bunch of factors you could look into here as to why uh, we know one thing is El Capitan made plenty of mistakes in that game with some miscues, turnovers, and penalties that cost them. The computers here, Dave, one computer had the official computer here. I don't know how El Cap is a number 2 seed and Chula Vista is a number 7 seed. Maybe it was because of their win last week. They have Chula Vista by 1 point. Chula Vista beat Classical Academy 55-16 as Ladarian Perkins scored 4 touchdowns for the Spartans in that one, and Isaac Baca passed for 100 yards and a touchdown as well. Gabe Ruiz had a touchdown reception. They're led defensively by Benjamin Rivera, who had 2 sacks against the Caymans last week. Also, Elijah Richardson had a sack as Chula Vista sacked the quarterback for Classical Academy 5 times.
Yeah, I think El Capitan, ever since they went through that was part of the 3-game skid earlier in the season, though. Those games, as I want again, defensive coordinator Sean McDade had mentioned that he played those teams, those better teams, just to see how well they were going to fare in a little tune-up before they went ahead and took league. And you know what? It worked perfectly. And they did fantastic in the top of the league, one league. But this is the playoffs, win or go home. And I think that Coach Berner and Coach McDade have got their offense and defense ready to go. I think El Cap is playing actually the best football uh, out of a lot of our teams. I'd say they're in the top five, uh, and that's including all divisions at this point. So I'm going to say we'll be talking to Mr. Brandt, maybe Mr. Valencia again. Coming up on Friday. He seems to be his favorite target as of recent. Uh, am I correct?
Well, we'll see what happens with that one. You know, he did not have any receptions in that first matchup for El Capitan. Barker threw 2 touchdowns in the game, but Chula Vista held Brant to just 15 of 34 passing in that one. It was Brady Girolman. He ended up as the big offensive player with 133 yards in total offense and a touchdown reception. It was a sophomore Braden Linder who had a touchdown reception as well. Barker also rushed for a score in that game against Chula Vista. Baca mentioned last week he only needed 100 yards passing. He had 295 yards passing and 3 touchdowns in the first meeting, all to a different receiver that we didn't even mention, but in that week 2 game for the Spartans, it was Elijah Gillespie who had 3 touchdown receptions from Baca in that game. So, look, I've got to think here that El Capitan can get it together and turn the tables here on Chula Vista. The Chula Vista went 0-4 in league play after that happened, Dave. They lost this season to La Jolla Country Day. Nothing wrong with that loss, but they lost to Otay Ranch. They lost to Sweetwater. Sweetwater is who Mira Mesa defeated last week, talking about the comparison with the matchup on the other side of the bracket here. They also lost to Eastlake 24-21. They got blown out by Mater Dei Catholic by 30 points. So I'm going to take El Cap here, Dave, in this one. But again, Chula Vista came in and stunned them the first time. This is, basically a toss-up is what the Cal Preps computer says. But the other computer, Dave, has El Cap by nearly 3 touchdowns.
Well, I'm going to say this. I think that defense is pretty ferocious too, and they have been, especially once they got into league. And they're not allowing a whole lot of points in most of those games. Uh, so I'm going to say that they have the Vaqueros ready to go, rested up. I'm sure they watched plenty of film. And I'm not going to take them by a whole lot, but I'm going to say El Capitan wins this one by 10.
All right, Dave. Yep, sure hope so. This week, taking on the Chula Vista Spartans. And like I said, if the two teams win, Dave, the game will be at El Capitan. So Barker this season, Dave, 18 touchdowns, just 3 interceptions. I think that's been a little bit overlooked this season, that he has been so solid, because unfortunately the interceptions he's had, they've kind of stood out this season, but really those are really, really good numbers, Dave. 1,733 yards for Brant Barker this season. You mentioned Valencia finished with 27 receptions for 4 touchdowns. Aiden Benegas, 41 receptions for 516 yards and 6 touchdowns. Linder has 4 touchdowns receiving this season. So, all right, let's do it. El Capitan will host that game next week against Grossmont. Let's do it. The game we knew we wanted to see, right, Dave? If there was two teams that we always have been talking about, even the last couple of years, that kind of can go back and forth between the doing little trying to explain the difference between the Valley League and the Hills League, and this is what I'm doing. But right, Grossmont, El Capitan, they're almost
Yep.
interchangeable which league they could have been in, and it's just unfortunate one of the teams has to be right now in the Hills League. Grossmont did a nice job in the Hills League. I'm sure El Capitan would have been able to grab a win or two in there as well. Okay, that's going to be great. All right, Dave, let's move on here to Division 5. It's the East County Invitational, it feels like, here in this one, Dave. And hey, let's go right to the matchups here and get rolling with our first one. I'm going to go to, here we go. Santana takes on Bonita Vista here in this one, Dave. I only mention it first because Bonita's the number 2 seed here. But just to make it clear, we could have a rematch. And we talked to Tim Estes, head coach of the Sultans, following the game last week. He said he'd like another chance at the West Hills Wolfpack. Well, both of our teams are going to have to go in and win on the road in order for that to happen. The game would be at West Hills, by the way, if it did happen. Both teams are 7 to 10 point underdogs in the game here next week. Santana is a 7 point underdog according to the CalPreps computer here this week, and the other computer has Bonita Vista by 3 or 4 points here this week. But you got to admit, Santana looked good. They're playing good here. Bonita Vista coming off the bye, but it was a great performance. And we talked to Coach Estes. You saw Wyatt Williams, laboring a little bit, but you were stunned, not by the amount. Yeah, you were stunned by the amount of yards, because you said, "Oh, I know he had 150," and you said, "What? He had 184 yards on 26 carries." And the Sultans had a huge performance defensively with uh, six or seven. Dave, how many? They had 7
7.
interceptions there. Ethan Miller threw a pair of touchdown passes. Noah Quaylen, Tatum Morehouse, this young player, I believe was a freshman. He had an interception. Quaylen's was a pick six. Denton Gore, Omar Salaya, who got called out here by coach for his performance in that one as well. Remember who they did that intercepting against, Dave? Brody Stump, who finishes his career. They're out now, Kearney. It was 33-18, but they intercepted Brody Stump 7 times. He finished second all time in the section for completions, second all time in passing yards, third all time in TD passes. And it was like Santana had their playbook last
Let,
week, picking off
let,
those passes.
let's not forget, too, I think they got most of their interceptions for the season in this one game, and that might just be exactly it. And looking at the totals here, Quaylen had Noah Quaylen had 3 interceptions, as you mentioned before.
Wow.
Tatum Morehouse had 2, and then Gore had 2 as well, all in one game. That's the interceptions for the season against Brady Stump, who a prolific passer, held very highly. And what did Santana do? They destroyed him. And you know what they did? Exactly what we heard what coach told us. We just kept him from running around and looking for a receiver to get open. We got after him. He was always under duress. He had to throw too soon or tuck it and run. And don't forget, they only had one run from what was it, number 11? I don't have his name right now at this moment, but for Kearney, one run. And then Stump ran the rest of them. If it was on the ground, it was him running for his life, basically, from that fierce Santana defense. The edge rushers, you got Gore, you got Aiden Thornton, Colton Thornton, and who is it that's leading in tackles right now? Well, Aiden's averaging 6.3 tackles a game.
Wow.
Court, and then his brother Colton Thornton, 5.4 per game. So,
Yeah, I don't know if Aiden, we've talked to both kids. Remember, we had Aiden at the beginning of the season. We had Colton after that, Coco after that great performance he had, remember, on that road game and I don't know if Aiden would be offended. I think Colton's probably going to be a little bit better player when it's all said and done. No offense, Aiden. I think maybe you feel that way too, but they're a great brother tandem there at Santana.
I wanted to mention also, as far as the defense is concerned, so far this year, Gillespie is leading with 7 sacks this season, followed by Julian Mayers with 3. So, and shocker, Aiden Thornton with 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, been great. And look, Dave, there's no doubt they found their man right now in Ethan Miller here at quarterback after a couple other guys were in there early in the season. And we've seen them make appearances. But Miller, the sophomore, has 10 touchdowns and 3 interceptions now after taking over pretty good here, I'd say, considering they were trying to find their way a little bit. Maybe that's going to be the difference. Maybe it is an improved offense here with Miller that gives them that balance that they could need in this game against Bonita Vista. Like I said, they're an underdog here in this one, despite having the better record here. But with Caden Hallman and his 15 touchdowns on the ground, and that other edge that they have with Williams, who's been just nearly as spectacular. It feels like Williams is shouldering the load here right now in the backfield, but also great receiving this season from Quaylen, 5 touchdowns, Gore, 3 touchdowns, and Xander Bennett, a couple of touchdowns here this season as well. So it's a tough to go down there, Dave, though, is what it feels like to me. That's where I might have my worries here going down to take on the Barons. I feel like I the let it down last week, Dave, going against the Sultans, but I think this one's going to be tough again. I'm going to take the Barons to win by a point.
Well, I'm going to have to go with the Sultans and the only reason I think that since what did Coach say? Williams took a helmet to the inner thigh.
Oh, is that what? Yeah.
Yeah. So knowing that it wasn't his knee when he limped off the field towards the end of the second quarter, I mean he was taking averaging at least 10 yards, 8 to 10 yards a rush. So what and they haven't been using him until later in the season as often because they had Hallman, who's averaging 94.9 yards per game, and then now they have Wyatt Williams, which the numbers will go up, but 41.3 yards per game too. So just between the combo of those two, I think because you have a great running game, that's going to take the pressure off of Ethan Miller, limit the turnovers. Let's keep it on the ground. We got great runners. We got a great offensive line, and I'm going to say that I'm going to pick the Sultans once again by a field goal.
Let's do it. Let's go Sultans. I want to be talking to those guys. We need some.
On
We
the
need
bus.
Yep, we need road teams to win. Dave, Bonita Vista this season lost to Eastlake 34-6. You know who else they lost to? Chula Vista 28-0. So there's a little bit of comparison there, right? Because El Capitan lost to Chula Vista, and maybe it was a little bit of a bigger margin than we thought they were going to win that game. But Bonita Vista didn't score against Chula Vista, who eventually won the league championship, I believe. And they also lost to University City, 48-16. They lost to Vincent Memorial, 25-16, and they lost to a pretty good Montgomery team as well. So for the Barons, Dave, and their offense coming in to this one, they have their running game here in order. This season, they rushed for 1,162 yards this season, with a running back, Jordan, with 900 yards and 8 touchdowns, and Luna threw for just 4 touchdowns. They threw 8 touchdowns and they threw 8 interceptions. So that's not that's a balance you want to have going into the game. Okay, the winner of this game will take on between two of our teams here, Dave. Oh, let me call this one. I'm sorry, Dave. I got him out of order, but we'll come back to it if I can. My screw up here on this one, Dave. Let me cover this one though with Monta Vista and Hoover. They will play the winner. The winner of this game will take on Coronado against Vista. Sorry about that, Dave, but I just had the screw up here. We're going to have to go with this one for now. That's okay. These are all Division 5 games. And if anything, Monta Vista here, look, I don't even have the we know what their seed is, Dave. We don't need to put it up there, even though I don't have on the graphic. They were the last team in. We've added it to our storyline a little bit that they were on the outside looking in. And, it might be a little bit, not embarrassing, but we had to call it like it was and tell the story. They were out of the playoffs. One team said we're not going to go in. Monta Vista gets in. What'd they do, Dave? They looked much better than a number 12 seed against Fallbrook. Yeah, Fallbrook was winless, but Alex Villanueva, the leading rusher in the San Diego section, had 242 yards as Monte Vista won 34-33 in a thriller against Fallbrook. How about Derek Taylor, Dave? He completed only 2 passes, but they were for 63 and 54 yards to Rashawn Florence. So Villanueva rushed for over 2,100 yards this season, and I got a little secret for you, Dave. He's going to be getting the ball again on Friday night. Monte Vista, an underdog here by probably 4, 5, or 6 points. The winner takes on number 1 Vista or number 8 Coronado in the following game. And I'm going to give the Monarchs a big chance to win this one against Hoover.
I think if they use the same exact formula, a lot of Villanueva, and I think Taylor's going to be able to feel. I think he's going to be able to throw a few more passes, and if they're able to throw the rock that far too, I'll tell you what, it's going to be a long night for the Hoover team, and I really think take those numbers off the board as far as the rankings because I think the Monarchs are going to go in there. And you guys, you want us to come in? Sure, bump us into the playoffs. And how about we just take two playoff wins?
Let's do 2 playoff wins. Why not? I mean, why not here? I'm going to take Monte Vista to win this game, Dave. I think they're better than the number what were 68 or whatever they were when those final
64, yeah.
Yeah, when those final rankings came out, Dave, for sure. The way they're playing right now, uh, doing a great job. Look, they were playing an 0-10 team last week, but we weren't, ready to, we both picked them for sure. They only won by a point, but this is going to be tough too. There's no doubt Hoover's had a fine season. It's great to see Hoover having such a great season right now. I mean, it's always good to have Hoover playing well. I mean, with the traditions that they have there. But the Monarchs, to me, Dave, are playing really good here right now. I'm going to still take them in this one. And look, I agree with you. It's not all about Alex, but it does seem like, we've seen Monte Vista with, big time special teams. We've seen them with the passing game a little bit as well. Like you've said, Dave, if anything, this passing game has been, yeah, it was 2 for 7 last week, but we've seen week in and week out, and how much also the teammates talk about Taylor's leadership at quarterback.
Yeah, what a difference too, and nothing. We all wish Bean a recovery, but boy, did he really saddle in and get down to business. These Monarchs, I think they're one of the bigger stories of the year. They may be Division 5, but they really have deserved every single win, and all the accolades that they get, they deserve them. They worked hard. And I think this one's going to be worked out in the trenches too when they go up against Hoover on Friday night. But let's go Monarchs. I got them by 7.
Dave, Hoover comes in with a 2-game losing streak. They lost to Crawford. That's who we'll be talking about next in the division brackets here, Dave, in just a moment in their matchup with West Hills. Here, as I've screwed up the graphics, that's all that's delaying me here a little bit on getting those games a little bit backwards. But nonetheless, Dave, for Monte Vista, for Hoover, they lost to Crawford on the road 29-27. They lost to Canyon Hills 29-19. They lost to Montgomery 32-20, and they lost to San Diego, who's a pretty good team as well. So that was their 4 losses this season for Hoover. So they come in, Dave, the way the Cardinals do it. They have a pretty good quarterback in senior Noriega, threw for 14 touchdowns this season, 822 yards. But of course, they go with the man. This is going to be 2 of the best running backs in the county in this game. Sir Autry, who's been a terrific career. You talk about the numbers that Alex Villanueva has put up in his career. Well, Sir Autry is right there in his career as well, with the Cardinals here. So I'm going to take the Monarchs here on the road, Dave. I don't know what I have a feeling. I don't know. Are you going with a clean sweep here of our East County teams? It feels like. I don't care if you do, but uh, this one is the one that I'm probably, even though they're the 12th seed, I don't know, Dave. This is the one that I'm kind of going to stick with here and think that our 12 seed may win, and maybe it'll be tougher for the 6 and 7 seeds here. And this is just the way I feel about this Monta Vista team and the way they're playing right now.
Almost reminds me of the years of the Schmidt brothers and talking late nights with our correspondent Logan Schmidt after a Monta Vista win, and boy, were they really good back then too. Not much of a passer behind center, but man, they could run the ball, and boy, could Logan, for a smaller, stout guy, could he put somebody on the ground? And I'd never seen such an exciting, explosive player on defense, and such a sharp young man. Also, I think he did join his brother at Montana State, I want to say, like a year later.
Yeah, what a great. They had some good teams too. We know that. So, all right, Dave, that's a good one. And sorry I screwed it up here, Dave, but let me at least bring in here the next matchup here with West Hills. So, just to be clear, Dave, it will be the winner of this game will take on the winner of the matchup between Santana and Bonita Vista. Oops, see, I knew I screwed it up. Here we go. Here it is, David. Sorry about that. Now we're ready finally with this one. It could be a rematch for the city championship of Santee. Now, whoever, I'm pretty sure they don't trade the trophy in the playoffs. I think that's the way it goes. If we get to that point, first things first, West Hills would have to beat Crawford here on the road, the number 6 seed, taking on the Cardinals here, Dave. We just mentioned Crawford beat Hoover. This is so you can make some comparisons right there. Crawford beat Hoover in the season finale 29-27. So if you want to draw some comparisons, I guess, but West Hills will be an underdog here by the Cal Preps computers by 10 points. The other computer has West Hills by a touchdown. I will say that. So West Hills was just terrific, though, Dave, in the game against Mar Vista. We talked to Joey Hamilton after the game, after his 3 touchdowns that he rushed for. He had 100 yards rushing. He had 100 yards passing. Junior Leone has been absolutely spectacular. He had 78 yards and a touchdown. Ryder Alexander. Right. He's been hot here. And how about this man? I'm sorry, Marshawn, I got the light, a reflection covering up his face, but this was his interception in the game last week. A good picture there by our man, Vic Morano. A great shot there. And also Isaiah Brown had the other interception. I think I misidentified the player last week. So thank you to Coach Ash all season for sending the statistics in so I can get it right anyway, at least on the second time around. And Dave, I'm gonna lean with Crawford here in this one on the road. And hey, if the West Hills Wolfpack can get that kind of offensive production, they will be able to be very competitive in this game and possibly win. But they've got to stop Sir Autry as well. We know the Pack can play great defense against the run, so I'm gonna take Crawford by a point. But this one's gonna be another thriller, I'm sure.
Well, you remember who's a specialist at defense on the run, and that would be Coach Ash. So if there's anybody that's going to stop Crawford, I think it's going to be the West Hills Wolfpack, and they've really come about in the last couple of games too. It seems to me that they've just gotten better each week in the last couple of weeks, and that is another reason. But we talked to Joey. You even mentioned that from the preview at the beginning of the year, how much this young man has grown, and the way he
remember.
Just the way he talks about his team members and West Hills as a team, and so much more of a leader. It sounds like to me after the preview that we did before the season began.
Yeah, David missed time. Remember, it might be even a little bit more developed, if you will, if he would have had a full slate of games under. Remember, he missed games with an injury. So for Hoover here, Dave, they lost to Patrick Henry, 44. Sorry, for Crawford, Dave, they lost to Patrick Henry, 44-16. They lost to San Diego, 42-0. And you might remember this one, Dave. They lost to Christian, 42-7. Remember that one a few weeks ago. They also lost to La Jolla Country Day, 26-6. So, they lost to some pretty decent teams. I think that's kind of why I'm still kind of maybe taking the Colts here in this one. They have a real balanced situation this season. They run maybe almost 2-1, and look, they mostly do it. It feels like with defense for the most part. They rushed for 1,100 yards in 10 games. That's I can do the math there. Just 134 yards per game. Still pretty good performance here this season. Also, they threw for 15 touchdowns and 2 interceptions so far this season. They do have one receiver who had 6 touchdowns, 38 receptions, 667 yards in senior Trayvon Blanks. So this will be a very good game, but I hope our teams win, Dave. Wouldn't it be neat to have? It would be Santana at West Hills should both teams win next week.
I think it's very possible for West Hills, and especially after having kind of interesting that we had Coach Estes from the Santana Sultans after their big win um, over Kearney, and then we had later on in the show to close it out, we had Joey Hamilton from West Hills, and you know what? Both of them want to play each other again, and wouldn't that be something to end the season? And they're here's the thing: they all live in the same area. There's kids that go to Santana, and there's kids that go up the hill that go to West Hills. It it's not it's kind of a rivalry, but it's not because they're all friends. Hey, if you win, great. If we win, great. But I think they equally compete. But I think that is the goal of the West Hills Wolfpack and the Santana Sultans. So you know what? I'm going to stay with the all Santee, and I'm going to say that I'm going to leave it to you. West Hills is going to win by 3 by a field goal. What's the field goal kicker's name, Ramon?
Slozkowski, I hope. Hope I got it right, my brother. And it could be, they might call him Slokowski. Slokowski, it looks like to me. Tough pronunciation, Dave. And maybe we'll get him on. Maybe he'll hit that game winner this week on the road. We know West Hills has, if anything, Dave, the best reputation of kickers in the East County. That's a fact.
Well, all I got to say is, and I put my own pro team down. Just make sure you have that left side shored up, and make sure you're not having somebody rushing your kicker before he even gets to the ball. But West Hills doesn't have that problem, and I think that it is going to come down to either. I want to say a touchdown, but I'm going to say it's going to come down to a field goal, and I'm going to say West Hills for sure. I only picked. I was going to say we're going to go undefeated. I picked Mount McGill to take.
El Camino. You picked El Camino over the Matadors, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right, Dave. Let's see. We don't have anybody in Division 3, but I do want to mention our cousins. Patrick Henry will be taking on Central Union, representing kind of a faux East County. We always kind of throw in Patrick Henry in some of the coverage during the year because of their proximity in San Carlos. So we can root for Patrick Henry there. They are in basically a toss-up game with Central Union. The computers had Central by a point in that one. Okay, one more I'm going to show here on screen, then we'll get on out of here. This one might look close with the 3 seed Calvin Christian taking on Foothills Christian, but Foothills Christian is probably about a 3-touchdown favorite here in this one, Dave, to beat their former rivals. They're still kind of rivals. Calvin Christian, they used to play some tough games, but Foothills has moved kind of to the head of the class, and they're on a collision course, as we've talked about all season, with division rival league rival, now league rival, St. Joseph Academy, the number one seed. St. Joseph Academy won the regular season matchup. Calvin was third in the league at 0-3, 0-2 in the three-team league, but that's just how they roll right now in eight-man here. St. Joseph Academy will take on Horizon Prep. In their game, but it's been an awesome season here for Foothills Christian. 6-3 actually for them has been. They usually don't finish with 3 losses, but they did play some tough teams out of section here this season. Losing to, of course, Powerhouse California School for the Deaf of Riverside. They lost that one 68-28. Lost to Flint Ridge Prep 47-0, and lost that big league showdown 24-6 to St. Joseph Academy. This one is at Junior Seau Field there, so check that one out here this weekend. Okay, Dave, great job. Great preview of our playoffs here on Friday night. We'll be with you. Hopefully, we'll get some players rounded up from some teams here this week. Look, we got favorite teams. We should have some winners here this week. Dave has us for 9 winners, I think, here this week. So we'll see if the East County can pull off an upset or two and bring the banner home for the East County here, because this is where it gets a little rough here, Dave. But yeah, we have our teams on bye with El Cap, with Grossmont, with Helix here this week in Granite Hills, but we've got to win some on the road to have your predictions come true.
Absolutely, and let's take time real quick to thank our sponsors all season long into the playoffs. The East County Sports Report is sponsored by Granite Mortgage and Lakeside Equipment. Thanks, guys, and as always, we thank our dual Mr. Merritt and Davila have been quite kind to us out there in those Christian games. So, looks pretty positive from where I can see it. We may take some may go down, unfortunately, but I think maybe 1 or 2 at most. And for Ramon Scott, I'm Dave Dickens. Thank you for joining us. Have a great evening. Good night.